On the panel today, we have Dr. Preeti Ojha, from a software coder to now the principal of Delhi International School, Dwarka. Dr. Ojha has switched career purely based on the passion for teaching. Welcome, ma'am. The transition has been somewhat similar for our next panelist, Ms. Shivani Sahani, a marketeer turned educationist. Ms. Sahani is currently the principal at the HRM Global School, Delhi. For her contribution in the field of education, she has received many awards and accolades. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Our next panelist is Ms. Alpana Baveja, the principal of Manav Rachna International School, Gurugram. She is an experienced educator with almost 2 decades of experience. She is a passionate mentor who firmly believes that there is no greater responsibility and privilege than grooming the next generation. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
The moderator for the panel today is Dr. Shalini Nambiar. Shalini ma'am is a very well-known name in the education sphere. She is the founder of SN Educational Consultants and the consultant at the New Nordic School, Finland. Before I hand over to Shalini ma'am, I would request you to use either the raise hand option or leave a comment in the chat box in case you have a question or you would like to share your views. And with this, I would request ma'am to take over.
Hi, good evening, everybody. And thank you, Alicia, for such a warm welcome and very interesting topic. When Rashid told me about it, I almost jumped because that's something very close to my heart. And I'm happy to have the kind of panelists. And it's, especially Alpana, we have worked like long time back and I was so excited to see her. So thank you all so much for being here. And it's a very important topic, how do we ignite the critical thinking, problem solving? We keep talking about it. We attend so many webinars and this has been going on, I think, since past, I would say a decade, where we have been talking about the 21st century skills and how do we bring them in the classroom. But the challenge is, it's not all talk. We need to also concentrate on how we can go about it. How do we do that? And how do we, ensure that the child is able to think critically? We have to remember, before I move on to questioning all you esteemed panelists, that, critical thinking is a learned skill that requires instruction and practice. Several barriers are there, lack of training of teachers, limited resources, then there is biased preconceptions, time constraints. It's been I've been in the education for 28 years, and it's been my experience when you ask a teacher, are you incorporating the critical thinking skills in the classroom? She says, of course, yes. Problem solving, yes. Okay, then why can't the children think? The children are not allowed to question in the class. The children are not encouraged to be creative. So before I move on to ask the panelists of my questions, I want to share an incident. When I was a teacher, I started my career donkey's years back. And I still remember I had this student in grade 6 or 7 who had come from US. And that time there used to be 9 planets. And the question was a typical CBSE question, how many planets are there? And he wrote, there are 8 planets. He said, Pluto is not a planet. And I still remember as a teacher, because we are so used to, and that is something, my advice to all teachers who are watching, one needs to change. Please do not stick to the textbook. So I asked him, I said, how come Pluto you have said is not a planet? He said, ma'am, just wait for a few years. You will see that Pluto will not be a planet. And exactly that's what happened. So we need to allow children to be creative. We need to allow children to question and question not only themselves. There's a very beautiful quote by Alec Bourne. It is possible to store a mind with 1,000,000 facts and still be entirely uneducated. And I think somewhere we need to reflect as educators. That's what we are doing. We're creating a nation of literate, uneducated people. So we need to reflect. So my first question, I move on to the panelists, is to you, Preeti. So the digital age, we have all been experiencing the digital age now, dictates that teaching should go beyond the curriculum. In fact, I look at this COVID era as a golden opportunity for being able to incorporate whatever we have been, dying to do for so many years. A teacher needs to be a continuous learner. But sadly, we are in a system where marking attendance is mandatory, not the intellectual presence. Therefore, teachers need to introspect why students are getting alienated from the learning process instead of looking forward to it. You must have heard children in middle school, high school, they put off their camera. They're not interested. So what are your thoughts on that? Over to you, Dr. Preeti.
Dr. Shalini, thank you so much. And my answer to this question is, I'll start with a little background of my own. I am a graduate in computer science and completing my PhD in computer science. And why did I do my PhD while I was working was a very interesting instance when I spoke to my principal. And she said, what is the need that you want to become an ethical hacker? What is that you want to do in the classroom that you are engaged in such a thought? I said, because children usually hack my password and they have the question paper and I can't help it. And I have to learn how exactly to understand ethical hacking in a way where I can understand the mindset of a child. So my entire episode of giving this base was that when you create a need for a child or when you create a why for a child, the interest of children comes welcoming towards the topic and the subject. They're never interested mostly with the whole class teaching. They're more interested with what am I going to get after this entire learning? Is it going to get connected to my game, which I'm going to play in the evening? Is it going to get connected with the friend I'm going to speak in another language? It is going to give me an interpretation of what my friend is going to think after he excels with what teacher is asking him to do. Because the learning has become very young, Dr. Shalini. And I feel that children are with more of a why at a very young age. They need their identity in the classroom for what they want to do. So when I see my teachers, I usually tell them, more than me observing you, I request you to observe your children more by teaching less, but giving them a situation where they think more and give them a problem which helps them to resolve in your real life. So I give you a small example here. I had a group of children who knew more than me in C++. They were pioneers with that language. And I was more into textbook learning because that's how I could complete my CBSE syllabus. So I could see them connecting with wonderful games online for children of grade 6, 7, and 8. And my children of 6, 7, 8 had a booked seat on the computer lab where they knew roll number 7 has prepared a game for them, which they can play in my period, which they didn't tell me. So I said, who made this game for you? So this bhaiya made in this class. I said, okay, let's call those boys. And I said, why don't you make something for geography teacher, for a history teacher? Why don't you make a KBC? Where teachers get the comfort of assessing the child and child gets a motivation of preparing a question bank and children get a very beautiful way of assessing by a clock, a minute to finish 10 questions and marks coming to them automatically on the screen. So they don't wait for the assessment. So this entire 3 trio of child, student and parent created a beautiful game where we established the names of the children on the website. So if you see very minutely and micro level, I could see all 3 of them getting their why. Why should I do it? And when they got a problem to resolve, they were more happy because then their identity comes into picture. And when you bring them together with a tool, which they don't recognize as much as any other student may, but they're getting a tool to resolve a problem, so they get a resource. And when you benefit them with an identity around it by appreciating them for their work and letting them know that they can do better with shorter commands, and your curriculum does come in between. So you let them know that you are actually getting connected to the infinite world of game where there are unknown players and an unknown rule and a conclusion will never end. So you connect your syllabus with the world outside real. I think that brings in a lot of change in the classroom for them to switch on their cameras and come voluntarily talking, and they know, oh, I am needed here by this teacher and she needs me to resolve something. Thank you.
Absolutely. Spot on. I loved what you said, teaching less and observing more. Very important point you mentioned for the teachers, because actually we do not give them time. They're loaded with curriculum. But my advice to teachers is you have to be a crazy teacher. You want to do something different. You have to think out of the box. So I started my journey with the travel line. So when I entered teaching, I still remember, after 4 years, my principal said, go and do your B.Ed, otherwise people will throw you out. So I went and did my B.Ed, and I prepared very hard for my practical exam. And I had to show those examiners ozone layer. And I still remember I carried the sieve and the tea, and I said, okay, this is the way tea, and that's how the ozone layer protects. And I still remember the response of the examiners. They said, yes, sab to theek hai, aap aur kuch dikhao. So I was taken aback. But me being me, I said, no, I'm going to stick to it. I didn't do well in the practical because they thought this was like out of the box. They didn't like it. So teachers need to think. And I think COVID has given that golden opportunity. Think out of the box. I think with the new breed of educators who have come up, it is, I see all of you encouraging so many new things. I've been, onto your Facebook pages, and I'm seeing what all you're doing. And I think teachers need to take advantage rather than restricting themselves and saying, we don't have time, we have curriculum to finish. Everybody has 24 hours, I always say Steve Jobs makes, whatever, they used to make 1 billion in a minute. Everybody has the same time. So you cannot say, I don't have the time to do things. Proper planning, what are the kind of questions, rather than planning the answers. I think for encouraging critical thinking, we need to encourage questioning skills into the classroom. So thank you, Preeti. That was really, really nice. And I move on to you, Shivani, with my next question. So it is estimated that by 2020, 2030, half of the core skills we do not consider important today will be highly important by then. The situation requires new strategies, approaches for teachers training program, and not continuing, unto the traditional industrial way of training. I've been part of so many teachers training, and the first question you get from a school, "Aap kis subject mein training karenge?" I said, I don't teach the teachers on a subject that they have the knowledge. You need to train them on the skills. So what are your thoughts? Because professional development is very important if we want to encourage critical thinking in the classroom, because the teachers need to themselves think like that, change their mindset. So how do you think we can bring about a change? Because professional development is at the lowest rung, when you look at schools around, and still they want teachers to do wonders. So your thoughts, Shivani, over to you.
I definitely sync with you, Dr. Shalini, in this, that there is a requirement of a continuous professional development for anybody and everybody. And the way we are seeing that we are communicating these days, even shopping, learning and working, looking at the pandemic, how we grew. So all of these things, they are not similar as they used to be a decade earlier. So hence the educators need to bring in a paradigm shift, which is definitely necessary to ensure that the needed skills in the students are cultivated. So for that, it is very important for us as educators to unlearn a lot of things and relearn a lot of things. Specifically, when we talk about the academic and career-ready children, so the 21st century skills in the global world, they need to be permeated around the conversations of the education that we talk about. As we are talking about technology, so technology is seen to evolve much more quickly. Now the students rather carry much more powerful computers in their pockets than we do, right? So hence it becomes very important for us teachers to keep them in an engaged yet protective environment. So I think this is one very important training that all our teachers need. They need to be sufficiently trained to put into place the preventive measures, the knowledge of the cyber laws. I think these are also equally important, because only then they will be able to guide the students, because there is so much available, darknet and all of those things. So we need to be very well versed about all of these things so that we keep our children protected. Training the teachers on the current trends, as in to ensure them to know about all the social media trends, is also equally important, is what I believe in. Then greater engagements are seen to be there through the multimedia. So hence, the multimedia resources can be used to create immersive, interactive and learning experiences between the teacher and the students. So a fair good knowledge about all of these tools. I very lately did a program in ICT tools with the Tata Institute of Social Sciences from Mumbai. So it was a very interactive program, though it was an online program. So I think such programs, they are available online programs. So at the ease of the teachers, convenience and time, these can be done. And a lot of initiatives by our government has also been taken in these areas. So to cultivate the critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, all of these skills, a lot of trainings have been done on the Disha platform. So these things are pretty much required. Now, as you were mentioning about the critical thinking skills, the art of questioning. So I think it becomes very, very important for all the teachers to now think of interdisciplinary teaching rather than teaching their sole subjects, as in mathematics being taught by a mathematics teacher. If we collaborate together, sit together, looking at the minimum learning criteria for a particular class, I think social sciences can be bridged with mathematics, arts, and a lot of integration amongst the subjects can be done. So trainings on such areas along with project-based curriculum, then inquiry-based teaching. So per se, this is the need of the hour. Because unless we do this kind of training with our teachers, the teachers will not be able to create such a platform for the children. So these are few of the trainings. Of course, there is no end to it, but I think knowledge of the EdTech tools and cultivation of the mindset of creating that kind of a platform where the children are encouraged to ask questions. So such kind of trainings are very, very important for our teachers for their continuous professional development.
Absolutely. Very, very valid points, Shivani. You spoke about the paradigm shift in the mindset, which is like extremely important. You spoke about the collaborative work, and I think that is something which is lacking, and the interdisciplinary. Now the government, the NEP has also come out. The teachers need to think, how do I map the entire curriculum? How do I link the subjects? Mind mapping is an art which needs to be done. Designing for change. So as you said, teachers need to, we are in that profession where I think it's very important to do research and data analysis. We don't teach our children, we don't even teach our children, and our teachers are not aware. So when you start doing research, you realize that there is a plethora of things available online, which can be done at your pace. Like you spoke about Diksha, there's Teachers app, there's Chocolate, and of course there is Tureto. I love your app, Alisha. It's really doing wonders. You're training kids online for all the, professional courses and all the other things, 6 upwards, I think you're doing it, which is amazing. So the teachers need to go out, now it's not about going out to a mall, it's going about in your laptop and doing research. What is available, what is good, because that way you're going to develop really those skills. Like I was talking to one of the schools and I told them that in your planner on the digital, how come there is no picnic? She said, how can we go for a picnic? It's COVID. I said, virtual picnic. Go on the research. You can take them to any of the museums now online. Even if there's a cost, parents are going to be willing to pay. It is so much fun, sitting in your room, you are visiting, maybe the Eiffel Tower or whatever, and they are available. So I think research and questioning skills. And again, the schools need to give the teachers those collaborative time period. It should be, I think, allocated in the timetable, which sadly it's not. So teachers don't have the time. So I think, thank you so much. Very valid points. And let's move on to you, Alpna. Alpna, it's lovely to see you again after so many years, maybe virtually, but I'm sure we're going to meet personally soon. Okay, so Alpna, I want to ask you, so the learners of the 21st century are all poised to join a workforce, that requires them to question, problem solve, think critically. And many of today's job requires workers to think outside of the box. I'm sure you're aware that, Google and so many big short companies have already said that we don't care what are your qualifications, what is your knowledge you have, but what are the skills you have? Do you have those skills which are needed for a job? And that is the reason why UNESCO has also come up with the research that they said the 50% of South South Asia, which is a point to worry for us. 50% of South Asian children will not be eligible for a job by 2030 because the focus is so much on marks and knowledge. And we are not, the warning bell is still not ringing in our mind. You know, I was reading about protesting about NEP in one of the states. I said, wow, NEP is such a beautiful document. Now we need to get together and see how we implement it. It is a challenge, but I'm sure we can do it. So Alpna, how do you think, you know, we are struggling, like Shivani spoke about, professional development, and the jobs require all these skills. When we talk about critical thinking, problem solving, you know, every teacher needs to do that. So what are your thoughts on that, and how can we bridge this gap? Over to you.
Thank you so much, Shalini ma'am, for that beautiful question. Very relevant, and even I'm very excited to share this panel with you. So when we talk about skills, yes, NEP has also beautifully highlighted it. We all have to understand what are these skills, you know, what are required. If you see even today, the education fraternity, we all have been fast-tracked into the online system. Had we not had these skills of adaptability, you know, and critical thinking, I mean, I think we would have not adjusted it beautifully. So one thing we all have to understand that what are these skills which we are talking about? Definitely these are, you know, observation, analysis, maybe explanation, problem solving, decision making, as you all mentioned. How do we make sure that our children are having it? So one thing we need to understand that skills are not taught, right? It has to be integrated in the curriculum. So all the activities what teachers are doing in the school, they have to make sure and they have to make an earnest endeavor that they are imbibed in the curriculum. Now today, when, you know, you just mentioned that for the jobs and maybe, you know, if a person is an entrepreneur, you all need those skills, but they cannot be, you know, taught, you know, at a swap of a finger. You have to actually have it right from childhood. Now, when we are having a collaborative approach in schools, there's a lot of reason behind it. When we are having collaboration, children are not only learning to adjust with each other, they're also learning to, you know, share their points. And, you know, there would be a leader, there would be children who are listening to each other. So we have to understand that there is a lot of depth behind it when we talk about collaboration. One thing is very important, as you said, that we have to make our children, you know, we have to develop their thinking skills. So today the role of education is much, much beyond books. As we all educators understand that the skills are developed, you know, they go parallel in the curriculum. So we need to understand when we need to make our children think. For example, you know, when we tell stories to the little ones, why tell them the end? You know, why tell them the end? Make the children think. So now when a child is asked to, you know, tell or think what is the end, there can be different ends to it. So the child is relating to the real world, the child is placing himself or herself there, and the child is coming out with something. Again, when we talk about, you know, activity-based classes, you know, the child is the center of the learning and the children are engaged. So when children are engaged, they're doing something simultaneously, you know, they're learning these skills. So we need to understand, again, when we talk about project-based learning, right? So rather than teaching students in a theoretical manner, we need to lay more emphasis on a project-based approach, wherein there can be, you know, guided research along with it. Obviously, the young ones, we cannot give them anything, just go on Google and search. So teachers' role is there that they give them guided research and they encourage them to come out with solutions. And, you know, there are presentations in the class which are involved, you know, their personality is developed. Again, when we talk, you know, about inquiry-based learning, so we have to make sure that, you know, children are because we have to instill the love for learning, as Ms. Nambiar pointed out. You know, we have to instill the love for learning in children. And so they need to have a very conducive environment where they are not scared of, you know, taking decisions. Decision making is another important thing. And they are openly, you know, coming out with their queries, their doubts. The environment has to be really, really conducive for these children so that they don't have any apprehensions. Again, I would like to say that the best way to boost critical thinking is to challenge your students with a tricky problem. So they will learn to use the resources at hand to creative solutions. You know, something they can relate to the world. And asking questions again helps this. For example, maths, rather than, teaching them normal, there can be various ways, you can ask a child their journey to school. Or I remember one of my maths teacher, she took the children to the mall and she was teaching children mean, median, mode there. So, when you link this with practical knowledge, simultaneously you are developing and, enhancing the skill sets in children.
Excellent points, Alpana. That was really nice. I'm so excited to have you. Rashid, we have a long-term relationship, so that's why I'm saying. But it was really nice to have hear your points, and I think you put some very valid points that what we need to do to encourage critical thinking. It was very well put. Thank you, Alpana, so much. And I think to continue with what you said, Alpana, it is it is very funny, as you said, relate everything to real life. Like I remember we studied probability in maths. I didn't know why we are studying it. The challenge is the teachers don't go into the class and tell the children, why are we studying English or why are we studying history? So we didn't know. And so many years later, when my daughter was getting married and, you issue the cards and you have to order the food, then you realize probability, oh my God, is useful here. Like I was talking to the teachers yesterday, I said, all of you have done geography and you still cannot hold a map and go from, let's say, Delhi to Indore looking at a map. They can't do it because we have just learned a map. And now things have to change. So as Alpana, you said, we need to relate it to real life. We need to give them a reason, a logical reasoning. Allow them to question why we have to tell the children sky is blue. No, let them think. Sky can be orange, sky can be red, sky can be black, sky can be dark gray. But we grow up with the presumption that the sky is blue. I mean, you already must be knowing there was that activity done by one of the big companies, and they asked the parents to draw a house, and everybody drew the house like a hut. So we don't live in those houses, but because we have just working on rote learning. So I think it's very important, teachers, if you are here, that please allow the child to question. Don't give him answers. That's my biggest advice to you. Let them think. Don't stick to the books. Textbooks are going to be redundant soon. I'm telling you, with NEP coming, with things coming, they are just like, your teaching aids, like a blackboard. Use them like that, but do not get dependent on the books. I think that's very important. So thank you, Alpana. Let's move on to you, Preeti. And my second question, I read this beautiful book by Fred Swaniker, who's the co-founder of the African Leadership Academy and African Leadership University. And he wrote in the book that most of today's education model is broken, given the accelerating speed of change. How do you think schools and universities can remain relevant? Looking at, how quickly, there is a section of population, like my daughter, is already planning that when I have my baby, I'm not sending my baby child to any school. There are safety problems, there are this issue. I'll rather do homeschooling. Schools kya padhate hain? She's asking me that. She's questioning me. So what do you think is the relevance? How do we ensure that we maintain that landscape of schools, university, its relevance? Over to you, Dr. Preeti.
Thank you so much. I think from the very beginning of any teacher's life, it starts with a feedback, essential. Even when you start your first class, you have to have a feedback. What exactly is the need of the child? What is the minimum learning of the child? Similarly, the managements of the school, the universities and schools have to look at the stakeholders around us and the requirement for the future. Now, when we start thinking in the same rote method learning format of school structure, how can you dissolve rote method learning in the classroom? My question to all the people as attendees there, how many of you play PUBG? How many of you play games online on the internet for more than an hour with the purpose of winning the game without thinking anything? How many of you take around 1 hour only to search tools which your children love? How many of you have got the freedom in the school that trainings are there for teaching how you want to, but what and to what extent you want to is only something that you will borrow from the NCF, but the rest of the things are going to be your prerogative in the classroom. You have the freedom as an empowered person in the class to speak the minimum and allow others to contribute. Those are your children. How many of us would love to change our evaluation system before making an activity. Because when you don't have the right resource of evaluating, which you should demand from the schools, that I want to evaluate my children by taking them for a tour to Tallaramgarh. I want to go and see a place where my children can sit and evaluate the budget of that place and understand why lesser number of children are here and why more children are in metropolitan city. Then comes your statistics, Alpana, as you said. And there the children can make a average and various other kinds of information given by the teacher as a formula from her curriculum, and then they can put it forward in the form of a real-time establishment of learning. How many teachers are learning technology today for teaching the right way to the child rather than knowing it more and infusing it in between teaching by making the whole class very monotonous with only technical tools? So there has to be a lot of balance of, in fact, Dr. Shalini, I feel that teachers' role today has become vast, more accommodating, and bigger than what they were thinking earlier, because now the holistic 360 degree of teaching style is also going to be seen in the teacher. When you talk about subjects, as you said, I also feel the same, that the subject love for teachers should be across in any classroom. For example, if I'm teaching computer science, I should know how to teach English through it. I should know how to incorporate music in it. I should know how can computer science help me do Mentimeter for physical education teachers. I should know how that tool can be used in various subjects, rather than only isolating one subject, thinking the child is going to only learn that throughout the life. Not possible. Today we are in the kitchen, we should know how to cook. Today we need to know how to change the tire of a car if we are learning how to drive. We should know how to go to the bank and deposit our money. We should know exactly how, we have got so many kinds of work, and we feel so dependent sometimes on various people around in the house, because that's the kind of an education we have been given. And so the whole paradigm has to change by you as being the most empowered person in the classroom, by knowing all aspects of knowledge around, so that teaching has to have a purpose for a child, end of the day. So the management should procure teachers in such a way and sustain them in such a way that your need is not only for maths, it may be also used for physical education. Multiple subjects in CBSE schools, especially. A personalized education will come into picture, obviously, because of this online learning, and most of the children who are not able to connect in the classroom among 30 children will definitely get into this hybrid mode of learning. And I'm sure that equal respect to subject will start only when our parents are oriented, that there is a dignity for labor for every work one individual does, which I see in so many countries. But India, you're a painter, oh, she's not earning much. Or she's a teacher, there must be something not with a choice because she couldn't get anywhere, so she's here. So that kind of a perspective of the parent also has to be done by the schools, so that the audience and the teachers who are here, who are the spokesperson to all the parents during the PTM, have to let them know my subject is very important and it's not isolated, it's connected to many other. So toppers will take humanities. And I think this humanities and commerce and science should also dissolve, which is getting through NEP 2023, I'm sure. But I think that's going to give a great breather to those children who want to take law, who want to take humanities and history, and who want to take physics. So I think that clubbing of all the three will allow your daughter, Dr. Shalini, to bring her child back to school. I will pray, and because that's the place where uniformity comes in life.
Yeah.
You're equal every way. So
yeah, absolutely. Very beautifully put. And you hit the nail on the head, Preeti, because I think what you spoke about is very important. And I also completely agree that, I think we also as a community have to reflect why why teachers are not respected, why the people look down upon us. I mean, I still remember, because, teaching I feel is a 24/7 job. So I'll be coming home at 6:30. My neighbors will ask, "Aap padhate hi ho na, to aap itni late kyun aate ho?" Like you're doing something rubbish, so they don't realize the kind of pain a teacher goes through. And I think what you said, like when I joined the teaching profession, I was not a B.Ed. I joined as a music teacher because I just loved kids. So I think when the first priority for taking people in this, the teachers must realize this is not a job where you'll become a Tata or a Birla. You are not going to earn that much. You will never earn. You can only join teaching if there is a passion. You want to make a difference in a child's life, come and join. Don't join this profession for making money. You will not. I mean, it's a fact of life, and they should be understanding that, because what a teacher says or does can make a difference to a child's life. When we talk about suicide, when we were seeing, that thing which occurred, recently and last year, so many things are just, put under the carpet by schools. Why it is happening? Because somewhere as teachers, I don't understand. How can I not know if my child has suddenly changed? My child is suddenly withdrawing. How can a teacher not notice? So I think join the profession only if you have a passion. I mean, I always beg teachers, please don't join because you harm a child. I feel I wanted to be a singer all my life. I was never given a chance in school because teachers wanted to put up the best show, right? I was never given a mic. And I wanted to speak, I wanted to do debates. I was never given a chance. So what is important is allow the child to explore. And I also wanted to say, I wanted to share one very funny incident. So when I started teaching, I was a music teacher, and suddenly after 6 months, my principal says, no, you can teach class. I said, sir, I can't teach. Knowledge to zero hai class. I was an average student. I nahi padha paungi. He said, nahi, aap padha paoge. And that guy is my mentor because he's the one who got me. So I remember that time we didn't have Google. The whole night I sat, वो सारे planets, मेरा session था with grade 5, teaching them planets. So I created all the planets, the usual, hung them in the hanger and went for the class, and I taught them with so much enthusiasm, with the principal sitting at the end and glaring at me, through those glasses. And I came back, and for me, reflection is very important. Another skill which teachers must teach the kids. And I reflected and I realized I taught the kids the wrong way. I taught them Pluto was the largest planet out of over enthusiasm or nervousness or whatever. So I went next day and I asked the children, I said, my God, I taught you wrong. You didn't even tell me. Ma'am, you were so excited. We didn't want to stop you. I realized one very important thing. Children learn when you are enthusiastic. You have to leave your baggage outside as a teacher. We can talk about giving you, thousands of strategies for problem solving, critical thinking. But if you don't have the energy, it'll be all, just go flat. So I think, thank you so much, Preeti. It was really nice to hear your points. And let's move on to you, Shivani. Shivani, my next question is, learning begins with a sense of wonder, a sudden spark that ignites a curious mind and propels it into action. Children are born with this innate sense of wonder. We see these small kids, they question everything. How am I born? What am I? And I've seen parents and teachers shut up. Like Alpana said, let the children think. Why Jack and Jill always have to go down the hill? Let the children create. Let's have a newer version of Jack and Jill. Why are we still teaching the kids, which I learned, my father also learned, and I think his dad also learned the same poem, Twinkle, Twinkle, Jack and Jill. It's pathetic. Let the children come up with their own thought process. So how do you think? Because early years is the age where, most of the skills can be, the child's, brain is like a sponge and the neurons grow at such a faster pace. So what do you think? What is your advice for the early age teachers, educators? Over to you, Shivani. You're on mute, Shivani. Shivani, you're on mute. Yeah. Okay.
So absolutely, I am of the similar thought process that the students are like a sponge, and there is a sharp increase in the neuron development. So at this age, specifically the pre-primary years, the foundation years,
I think, Shivani, we lost you. We can't hear you.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
So for a very long period of time, unfortunately, when we look back, we see that parents and teachers have been ignoring
We lost you, Shivani, again. I'm so sorry. I know I hate breaking somebody's thoughts, but we can't hear you. No.
No. Shivani ma'am, there is some issue with your, I think, laptop, I believe. The voice is not there.
Want to log out and log in again? I think something.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think that would be nice.
Now I can hear you. So can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So sorry. I don't know. There was some network issue. So yes. So when we talk about the early years programs, I think play has a very vital role. Unfortunately, this had been neglected for quite some time, as in when we want to have an experiential learning with the children, when we want to engage children in a lot of play activities, parents have also been, approaching schools and their management stating that we want our children to write, these many numbers need to be introduced in class nursery, and the child should be writing up until these alphabets and all of these things. So fortunately, now I would say a lot of psychologists have brought upon these studies, and in most of the Scandinavian countries like Norway, Sweden, etc., it has been seen that with a lot of involvement of children with play, there is a aggressive development of both physical as well as mental stature of these students, unlike of the European countries and unlike of the Asian countries. So to me, I think it will be wise for the educators to allow the students to make mistakes in order for them to learn and grow. Involve them in a lot of play activities like pretend play, running, jumping around, because unless the children experience that, how would they interact with the natural environment they are into? It is okay for a child to fall down, I think, because it is important for the child to learn about resilience. Creating a culture of kindness, which is a behavior that is marked with the acts of generosity, concern for others, and so all of these things which develop the physical and the mental health of the students. I'll give you an example. These days, what happens is when we look at any toy, maybe let's take an example of Lego. So all of these come with an instruction manual. So we had been all talking about critical thinking and creativity a little while ago. So when we look at the Lego, the child gets a manual wherein a lot of pictures are given, like an airplane or a crane or an ambulance, so on and so forth. So the child can pick out those particular pieces and can create a particular structure that is given in the manual. So where is the creativity of the child? So we ourselves are actually hampering the creative skills of the child. So to my opinion, we need to give child a free space where the children can really explore themselves. They can connect with their peers. They can talk to each other. They can explore. They can create whatever they want to do. So this is something which is very, very critical to me. And I give a lot of space like that of sand pools, like that of free plays, pretend plays. So all of these areas where a child can engage with others and with the peers. Apart from that, giving the opportunity to all the children to have a downtime. Now, by downtime, I mean the experiences that the children would get from sound meditation, from mandalas, simply just running around or just by lying down. So all of these activities help in the secretion of neurotransmitters like that of endorphins. So all of these neurotransmitters are also, again, very, very important for the physical well-being and the mental well-being of a child. So to me, a lot of free space, a lot of centers in the school needs to be created where the child can have a choice of its own. Maybe walls can be created where there are different kinds of puzzles, there are soft toys, there are a lot of stuff that whatever the child feels like picking, mood based, the child should be able to do that. So that's what I believe in.
Absolutely, Shivani, you were really, really good. And that reminded me of one incident I visited. So I'm part of a lot of school audits. So I visited one school, and this is a very swanky school, beautiful classrooms. And so they took me to the early years. They wanted to show me, wow, everything was kept where the child could never reach, all the puzzles. So I said, how do the children work? So the teacher says very quietly, she said, they'll get spoiled. Then management will not give us, so let it. So it's just for decoration. And you said exactly, give them that free play. We don't give them, we restrict them. बच्चों को लेट के पढ़ना है, पढ़ने दो, वो ठीक हो जाएंगे. Involve them in breathing exercise. Let them just run around. Because I tell you, the reason is we ourselves are very insecure. I mean, we ourselves are like always wearing a mask, pretending to be something which we are not. Like in my eyes, I joined education because in my eyes, the image of a principal was a very serious person who is like so strict, and the children are taken there when they have to be hit, because that's what happened with me in my school days. So I joined in because I wanted to change that image of a teacher. I wanted to dance with the kids. I wanted to be there. And another very important point you said, that because I'm doing consulting for the Finland school, they introduce schooling at 7, right? They don't force a child in writing. They say when he is ready, he will do it. The Montessori system says that. But here, I don't know, when we run schools, we need to be very strong and brave. Do a parenting session, tell the parents, like you don't go to a doctor and say, I've got diabetes, but I'll tell you what medicine to give. But in India, this is what is happening. Parents come and tell us what to do. Mere bachche ko aap padha do. Are nahi padhayenge hum. So we need to be very confident of what we are doing and have the courage to tell the parents that we are correct. You wait. They come with copies and they compare, because I mean, Alpana will know, we used to be a very crazy school. So wo DPS ki ya kisi school ki, any school, they'll get a copy. Is bachche ne ye karaya, aapne nahi karaya. I mean, come on. You're not noticing so many other things your kids are developing. And what you spoke about writing, my message to the teachers who are watching and to the parents if they are there, please don't force a child. My child was forced to write, my own son, at the age of 3. And in grade 5, he could not read his own homework. We had to call up neighbor's son to find out kya likha hai, because his handwriting, motor skills were not developed. So there's a scientific reason when we as educators are telling, and teachers you need to be very confident of yourself. You're the best profession. We give birth to everybody. Rashid has been to a school, that is why he's here. Alicia is here because she went to a school. So we need to be very proud. We create prime ministers, presidents. I don't know why teachers are scared. So we need to be very confident. So over to you. Thank you, Shivani.
I would like to make a mention, I in my school have been using, there's a X-ray, I think that can be found on Google, which shows the muscles and the bone formation of a child at the year 3 and then at the year 6. So that can be shown to the parents, and that can be used as a tool to make them understand that this is the time when a lot of Montessori activities are required, so that there is a fine motor development and the grip, that the tripod and the pincer grip, that needs to be developed. So this is all scientific, and that is what our teachers need to first understand. So a lot of transferring activities, such kind of activities at that point of time is very, very important.
So I this reminds me of one incident. So, in one of the schools I was there, so the parents were cribbing, aap likhwa nahi rahe hain. Mere bachche ko A, wo school mein kitne 100 baar likhwate hain. That child is so good. I said, acha aap aa jao. So I did a session with them, and I still remember I told them to write 100 times, I love my school. I said, just write. And then we did a reflection. What did you feel when you were on the 50th line? They said we were not actually understanding what we are writing. So we need to be very confident and tell the parents, because we can keep talking about critical thinking, problem solving, but if the child is not happy, if we are not confident, I don't think so we can do anything. So thanks, Shivani. Very valid points you said, and I'm sure it will help a lot of people. Archana, over to you. And I think it's a very, very small question, but very deep. We stop teaching content. Let's stop teaching content and start teaching children. This is a statement which I just love, and I have always followed it. So I want to hear your thoughts on this.
So thank you so much, ma'am. Again, a very, very interesting question. And when we talk about content, We have to understand that, yes, as per the milestones and as per the national framework, there are certain parameters which are already prescribed, and yes, we need to follow them. But we have to understand that what I would like to believe is the choice is not between teaching content and teaching children, but the choice is definitely between a teacher-centric way of learning and maybe a student-centric way of learning. So as you said that we have to have, we have to have happy lifelong learners. Children who want to love. Like I would like to connect here. I was very good in my maths, very good. But my teacher was not good. She somehow didn't like me. So I never wanted to go to her class. And then I liked my English teacher and somehow I took English as a main subject, So I strongly feel that the teacher also comes in here. The content is in the hand of the teacher. So it is definitely the pedagogy, which is very, very important, and the method of teaching. So I feel that we have to equip our teachers. We have to definitely have a lot of trainings. We have to abreast them with latest technologies. And as you said, that the teacher should come in this profession only if she feels for the children. Because teacher makes a lot of difference. Nobody will understand better than me. Because whenever I'm sitting with my family and I'm very good with maths, so they tell me, why didn't you not take maths? And I happen to tell them, I happen to remember my teachers. And as I'm sure we all remember both set of teachers. The teachers who made a difference in both ways. So I think a teacher has to be really passionate, and the pedagogy should be such which instill the love for learning in children, because learning, as we all know, is a lifelong process. We have to keep learning, keep evolving. So definitely nurture curiosity in children, the urge to know more. And now when you talk about this, I remember an example, tell me a place where we write A to Z together. In our school days, we were taught A to Z to, in a sequence. But today we don't do that when we teach phonetics to children. There's a very logical way. And similarly, if you talk about numbers, 1, 2, 3, where do we have to write it together? So we have to understand that pedagogy is very, very important. And there are various ways where a teacher, can develop this interest in children. So content, yes, it has to be there. We cannot ignore it totally, but the pedagogy is very important. And as I said earlier, also in a lot of my panelists, you also pointed it out, that a student-centered classroom is really very important, where the focus should be there. So, when you, I'm sure all the principals will agree, when we go for rounds, we don't look for a classroom which is all quiet. At least I don't like such classrooms. We look for classrooms where children are engaged, they're moving around, the kinesthetic learners are also looked into, and they're happy children, because, believe me, the children are also very happy when a teacher goes prepared, when a teacher is actually making them do something, because here the child is the center of learning. Definitely, we should allow children, we should allow for student choice and autonomy. This might mean providing choice of learning methodology. Like, we can give children choice of, they want to do projects, how they want to do their assignments. Finally, encourage teachers to give the students a few minutes to downtime to use as they had liked. That is very, very important. I'll tell you an example. When I was teaching 11, 12 about advertisements, I did tell them some of the children were not seeming very interesting in the class. So I told them, okay, let's write a matrimonial for yourself. What kind of spouse you would like to. Believe in me, everyone came out with the right for maths and the best of answers they could give. So yes, that is what we as educators, we have to make sure that there should be a lot of teacher training and the child should be the center of learning.
Absolutely. I love the matrimonial, because that's a very good point you said. So I hope teachers are hearing, because it's all about how you connect. And if you ask anybody, if I was to ask Rashid and Alicia, which are the teachers you remember? So you either remember the very best or the worst. You don't remember an average teacher. So I also always tell teachers, yahan to bahut achhe bano, yahan bahut hi kharab ho. Because agar aapko yaad rakhna hai, nobody is going to remember an average, and people keep leading an average life. Nobody knows them. That's not, I think, education is all about. Education is all about making a difference, creating. And as Alpna, you said, creating that connect, think crazy ways. How I remember I used to teach civics, that you took me back to my teaching days in 11th. And that time, Monica Lewinsky and, all that affair was going on. So I started the government chapter. Let's discuss about Monica Lewinsky, who all knows about it. So you have to come down to the level of the child, make it impactful, make it interesting. Look at the video of the Japanese teacher, math teacher, who's teaching them with a rap song. Our teachers can do it. But I think what they lack is the self-confidence. Sometimes they wonder if they're able to do it. So I think the best part of teachers training is that teach them to be as crazy as whatever. Because if you read that book by Stephen Levy, Starting from Scratch, he says, what you said, I think Dr. Preeti said or Shivani said that, give math teacher to teach art, or art teacher to teach math, they'll do fantastic because they're going to work harder. They have a different perception. And I also always feel when you're in this teaching profession after, 10 years, I think teachers should take a sabbatical for 2 years, go and travel the world, come back. You'll come back a better teacher because you're going to be so full of energy. And, you yourself need to experience the world. So when you stay a teacher, then you get so bored. You need to take a break, I think. And it's very important for the mental health of the person also. So thank you so much. All the very best. After each lesson, just ask the child these 3 questions, which is very, very important way to know about asking, giving them an opportunity to reflect what went well, what didn't go well. Just let them write it down. You're going to encourage the children to think, and you yourself will get instant feedback on what you taught. So all the best to everybody. And thank you so much, Preeti, Shivani, Alpana. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Alisha. Thank you, Rashid.
I would like to thank Shalini ma'am, Preeti ma'am, Shivani ma'am, and Alpana ma'am for their valuable time and for sharing these nuggets of wisdom with us. Over to you, Rashid.
Thank you, Alisha. Just a moment, let me share my screen first. Hope this screen is visible to everyone and I'm audible. So the core of the entire webinar is like we wanted to make it like purely academics, and that's the reason we don't want it to start with this presentation. But yes, since we are closing down, so 5 minutes time I'll take just to help everyone, every teacher, everyone, every attendee over here to understand what Turito is. So as ma'am has said, citing example of A to Z or critical thinking. So when we talk about critical thinking, it's not only about we also need to help the student to understand what critical thinking is all about. So we at Turito actually help student build the concept to help them build the career, so they can qualify in any of the examination, be it engineering, medical, or foundation. And we also have programs for people who are preparing for Ivy League examination. So how we do it, one simple example I'll cite. Basically what we are doing, we are as Alpana ma'am has cited the example A to Z. So A to Z in a sequential manner, we all know, right? But if I say everyone, tell me like Z to A. So how many of you will be able to speak tell it Z to A? So that is what that is one form. So that is what how a particular concept, be it like A plus B whole square, or be it E is equal to MC square. The particular concept is there, but how that particular formula has been derived, how it become universal, that is what we help the student to understand, so that the entire concept remain stick to the student for a longer period of time. And when the questions get twisted, they are in a position to answer it and do well in exams. So in a very nutshell, what Turito is offering, our offering is in India, we have more than 50 plus examination. So we have IS examination, we have CA examination, we have NEET examination, we have engineering examination. Many government, state government and central government examination are there. But we zero down to ourselves to engineering and medical only, and that's how we are covering engineering entrance courses. That is IIT and JEE and state level entrance examination for engineering, medical entrance courses, NEET we all know, and then state level medical examination, and foundation courses. Basically, any schools or student who wanted to go for help and crack the NTSC, KVPI Olympiad. So foundation courses are for them. And we are also offering international courses, wherein the student can opt for like say a SAT or ACT program, which help them go into the Ivy League colleges, be it like Harvard, Cambridge, Kellogg's, any of the universities or colleges. So here is our leadership who are like who are running the entire show. So Mr. Uday Reddy is the Chief Executive Officer for Torito. Mr. Roop Reddy is who has actually built the product for the student and the parent. Vinod Raj is actually the person behind the content, having a rich experience in content development. And Mr. Srinivas Ramchandra is the Chief Operating Officer for India and overseas. This is the faculty. So like every faculty is actually have produced like single digit ranks when it comes to JEE and NEET, and these are the backbone of our company at this point in time. And under the able leadership, we are actually helping students come out with flying colors as far as different examination in engineering and medicals are concerned.
Thank you, Rashid. And with that, we'll wrap up today's session. Everybody, please have a wonderful evening. Thank you.